while we are in the middle of it. Okay. We are going to do some head-tail connection, somatic inquiry practice today, and that means that everything that you do is really up to you. It doesn't need to look anything like what I'm doing, and everything I offer is just an offering, and in the interest of going deeper within our experience of being within our own self and in our own body. And so also there's actually some construction happening next door. I don't know if you probably can't hear it because the earbuds are pretty good at cutting that out. But if there's a little crashing around here, I apologize. So we're going to play with this idea of the head-tail connection. And this is something this concept I learned in the Laban Bartenieff work. There's Susan. And you can do this laying down, you could do it standing up, you could do it seated, but it's basically this idea of the connection from your head all the way down to your tail. And there's another thing I want to just talk about before we go deeper into it and start to experience it, and that is supporting our brain and our spinal cord is the cerebrospinal fluid. So it's a fluid that's developed in the ventricles and somewhere else. I even have this. Did I bring it up? There it is. I'm just going to read this really quick because it's nice to have that imagery of it. And if any of this makes sense or doesn't make sense, just let it wash over you. Cerebrospinal fluid, this is from Wikipedia, is a clear, colorless body fluid found within the tissue that surrounds the brain and spinal cord of all vertebrates. CSF is produced by specialized ependymal cells in the choroid plexus of the ventricles of the brain and absorbed in the arachnoid granulations. That's all I'm going to read. There's a whole bunch of exciting things if you want to find out about it on Wikipedia. But basically what it does is it bolsters and supports our brain and our nervous system, and it filters through our body 3 or 4 times a day, and it brings oxygen, nutrition to our nervous system, and it also eliminates waste. So when we're playing with this head-tail connection, I really just want to offer the fact that our whole brain and spinal cord are bathed in this fluid, this almost like plasma, almost like lymphatic fluid, and it has a detoxifying quality and a nourishing quality. So just to throw that in there. We're going to play with some sounds. And the first sound that we're going to play with is the theta breath. And it's like a soft hiss coming from behind your tongue, like a not hard, but really easy, just letting the air out. There's no right or wrong about this. So however it feels good or interesting for you to do it, we can do it. So coming in with that soft hiss sound to come into a landing in our bodies in the moment. Offering any kind of micro movement that's coming up, giving that some space, offering yourself any kind of fluid shifting, changing, adapting, letting yourself really have this moment to tune into sensation in your body. So tuning into the interoception, what you feel happening inside, and maybe even the exteroception, what's happening on the outside. So we're not shutting anything off or shutting anything down. Eyes can be open, eyes can be closed. Hey, Cassie and baby. Head-tail connection, cerebrospinal fluid, theta breath. inviting your awareness to come online through all the sense gates of participation of being in a body. So feeling, sensation, maybe what you see, smell, even taste could be involved, temperature. So I thought head-tail connection would be great, especially for the alembic, because I know a lot of people there are real thinkers and real people in their heads. So we're going to go a little bit further with some breath practice. We're just going to do a little teeny bit of Anulom Vilom Nadi Shodhana, which is alternate nostril breathing. So I'm going to take my thumb and close my right nostril and inhale through my left. And then I'm going to take my ring finger and close that nostril and exhale through the right. I just did it through my mouth, through my nose. If you're stuffed up, maybe skip this. Inhale through one nostril, exhale through the other nostril, and then inhale through that. Close it, exhale. Inhale through one nostril, close it, exhale through the other nostril, inhale through that nostril, and exhale through the other nostril. So just going with that for maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. You can add holds if that feels good, or do it however it works for you. Maybe end it so that you finish breathing out through your left nostril. So I feel like that adding that alternate nostril breathing just really adds in this factor that our brain has these 2 sides, right? 2 sides and then an upper and a lower. So coming into that space, if we look at like an MRI, you can see the pulsing of the cerebrospinal fluid. And when we add that breath, breathing one side, breathing the other, we're just coming in there to a deeper layer of connection inside of our heads. And since we've been up here with all of this breath, I want to take it down to our bellies, and we're going to do another sound. And in this belly moment, I want to invite that you're going to allow your body to arch, to curl. I'm sitting here on a ball, which makes it really easy to arch and curl, but you could do this seated without a ball. You could also do it laying down on the floor. And I want to just invite the idea of creating volume down here, volume and awareness down here. You could take one hand on the front of your belly and pubic bone and the other hand on the back so you feel your tailbone. And the breath I'm going to add in is an ooh-oh sound. And you want to think of letting that ooh-oh really drop deep down into your guts, into your belly. If you're somewhere where it's not comfortable to make noise, then you can do without the vocals. But I feel like the vocal really helps us drop in. And the lower we go in our tone, the deeper it's going to feel, easier to feel it deeper in our body. So going with an ooh-oh, just to drop our awareness down into our pelvis. And maybe that's not going to work for you. So if not, let it go and just play with the movement. Ooh. We could think of creating this spaciousness in the gut body is having this effect on our lower back and tailbone, right? It's the front half of that. So letting us fill up and expand into the belly, into the gut, so that we're dropping down our awareness into the lower part of our body, feeling and allowing the spine and the tail to free up. Taking resting breaths whenever you need them. That O sound doesn't have to last forever, just what feels comfortable. Letting yourself start to awaken this idea of the river of the spine, the river of the spinal cord from the head down through the tail. So it's like, it's not just the spinal cord or the bones of the spine, but it's the brain stem down into the spinal cord. And then if it becomes like, oh, I need to move more, you can let that radiate out into the rest of your body, do some core distal movement. But if it's possible, keep coming back to this idea of head tail and imagining like if you just arrived in this vertebrate body, what could it do? What can you, how can you move? So coming to it with curiosity and experimentation, as opposed to an imposition of knowing what can happen and what can't happen, but coming with a openness and a curiosity. So from here, I'm just going to keep moving in the spinal way, waking up this head-tail connection. And I am going to randomly, whenever I feel like, add any of the sounds, the theta breath or the ooh, just to feel into it, how that shifts my perception and my awareness. You are welcome to take this in your own way, in any way that feels interesting. We're not shutting anything down. We're just bringing things online and noticing into our sensation. If you come across any territory that feels uncomfortable or scary, feel free to stop moving, get a drink of water, go to the bathroom, whatever you need to do. So you don't need to face an edge that you're not ready to move through. But if you do come up to some edges and you're curious and you're okay to deal with them, then go ahead and let yourself move with and through whatever you're experiencing, if that feels okay and safe. I'm hearing inside my own body all of this little like popping, bubbling, and clicking. And sometimes when we're moving and we're working in our body, it's really easy to feel the areas that hurt, and we keep kind of locking into those. So the invitation is to start to feel what also feels good or what feels curious or interesting, and move between that and the also maybe painful place. I'm going to take this down onto the floor. Can we tune into what feels interesting and delicious as much as we can tune into what feels painful? Also, it's not like we're trying to go into these extremes of spinal movement, like extreme flexion or extreme extension or big twists, but maybe they feel good to do sometimes. So feel free to listen into your own system with what feels good or what feels interesting. Sometimes people come into a movement class that's really an open movement class and they come in with what they know. So the invitation is to, you don't know what you don't know, but to come in and follow, see if you can find new patterns or new possibilities in your movement. If you notice that you're in a pattern that keeps repeating or is very familiar, see if you can shift it slightly. Just change the timing, change the space, change the dimension. Any of that will bring the awareness into a new place with that. And the invitation is really to start to break up any of the sort of calcified, crusty ideas or even like actual crustified calcifications within your body and just reabsorb them. Let the body compost and reintegrate that. So there's spaciousness in the spinal cord, there's connection from the head to the tail, there's fluidity and ease of being within that space. And tiny, tiny micro movement might be the best way to wake that up, as opposed to really big, forcey movement, but tiny, gentle, easy micro movement. Embryologically, as humans, we go from being like this sort of disc in the first week into the, and we start to open up into the notochord, which is ultimately going to be our spinal cord. So coming in, we start to establish this midline. So we're playing with that awareness. And if we shift this midline all around this central channel, what can we free up? They call it the primitive streak. Can we go back to being a primitive streak with all the freedom and infinite possibility surrounding us? So much potential, nothing locked in. So one of the reasons to make the sounds is doing that theta breath is going to really extend your exhale. And anytime we start to extend the exhale, we start to downregulate. We start to go into that parasympathetic rest and digest, soothe and settle. But the other part of it is the sound vibration is going to affect the fluids and the tissues in our body in a vibratory way, right? So it'll helping to create a coherence through our system through the use of sound, vibration, and breath and movement. And the coherence in our system means that our organs and our systems are working in harmony, not fighting against each other, but organized. inviting in an internal harmony of being. And if we can start to feel a harmony on the inside, it's easier to feel a harmony with the outside, right? Yeah, so for me, spending a lot of time in head tail brings on this desire for core distal, center to edge. So feel free to allow any movement in. Maybe something else comes up and it becomes curious. Feel free to go on that adventure and discover that. And also remember that none of this needs to be written in stone or locked down. It's just the experience of this moment. And you can trust that the information is happening on a cellular level, on a body level that doesn't have to be recorded in your brain or in your analytical thinking. So I'm going to add music for this last part, and this will be the music of Jeff Gersh. It's called Ambient Fields. He has a bunch of things that are on Bandcamp, and you can buy them if you want them. And I use his music all the time because it really is sort of spacious and just takes you in there and out there at the same time. So this is number 3. Allowing the music to inform your movement if that feels helpful. You could also play with head tail in a quadruped position or any other position. But sometimes it's interesting to feel from quadruped, inviting in wave-like movement. And feeling into the natural kinetic chains of movement that happen when you move your spine. And this also may be within stillness, right? Or relative stillness. We can also just feel into those connections with gentleness and softness. Giving yourself permission to move in any way that feels interesting. So letting go of any kind of cultural or familial inhibition. That has been laid on you. And if it's possible, imagine just softening away your own personality or your own sense of you, I am this type of personness, and just let there be more freedom so that you don't have these definitions holding you back or pinning you down. Just allowing some freedom within the movement. And it could start down at the tail and move its way up, or from the head down to the tail, or it could start in the center and work its way out in 2 directions. So giving yourself full permission to play with the possibilities. Also inviting your body to move from the fluids. So often we think that we're moving from our bones and our fascia and our muscles, but let ourselves move from the fluids. So it's sort of a different participation. And it's a combination of everything, but just imagining, what is it like to move? And thinking, even including air in that, right? Air flows, so we consider air a fluid. And I'm moving a lot today. Your movement may be more, it may be less. Whatever you're doing is totally fine. If you notice you start daydreaming about the past or the future, see if you can come back into sensation, bring it back in. And at the same time, it's not like you have to go, oh no, it's fine. You can daydream. It's also fine. We're not trying to make it all disappear. We just want to keep coming back in to sensation whenever we notice we've disappeared. But as we move and we invite our body to participate in these different ways of being, sometimes it dislodges old ideas or memories, or different things start to flow through or come out. So we don't want to stop that either. We don't want to inhibit the expression of whatever is arising. Just coming back to this awareness of head tail. Head tail, spinal movement, cerebrospinal fluid. If you find that you keep getting stuck in your head, see if you can take it down to your tail. Imagine you have a big bushy tail. Can you wag it? It could just be an exercise of the imagination. Inviting yourself to free up whatever patterning is happening in there. Unless it's really serving you. If the patterning is really helpful, then just lean into that patterning and accept the nourishment of that patterning. And if the patterning is holding you back, maybe start to let it dissipate. We also want to really take time with change in our body so that nothing's happening too fast that we get destabilized. Yeah, even sometimes the good things like can destabilize us, right? So giving ourselves time to accept what's happening, to integrate, to move with. Yeah, I was doing a lot of breathwork practice and started to just always feel my nervous system buzzing all the time. And it just became a little too much. So I backed off, right? Like maybe I don't need to feel that quite so strongly all the time. At the same time, maybe it's interesting, you know, or maybe I'm just attuning this next layer of awareness and it gets really stuck on something for a while. And then maybe it can shift off to something else. I'm going to stop live streaming. So if you're there in TV land,